Hello, and thank you for tuning into part 2, where I'm going to break down the story of Stardust Ranch and determine how seriously we should take it. So, let's get right into it. Firstly, I want to say that the ranch isn't nearly as in the middle of nowhere as I first thought. In my mind, I had this idea of a small ranch in a barren, desolate area, but no, look at it. It's on a main road with a small town or settlement literally next door. I'd have thought John's claims could very well be verified by all of these people if they were indeed true, but from what I understand, the majority of John's claims are grounded in the ranch. Now, this doesn't necessarily flat out debunk the claims, but it does paint an entirely different story. For me, personally, knowing that there are all these people across the road doesn't nearly make the story as eerie and scary as it seems. I will say that there's a possibility that this could be a modern development and may not have existed before, but still I thought it was worth mentioning. So, my first initial problems occur at the start of the story. John claimed the previous owners left all of their furniture behind. Now, this for me is probably the hardest thing to believe about the story. I mean, look, this implies the original owners A, simply forgot, which is just plain stupid, B, just didn't want it anymore, which again is moronic, or C, it implies that they too encountered the same experiences as John and were simply too scared to come back and get their furniture, which is fine and understandable, but then why were they so easily persuaded into coming back for the furniture? Like, we're really scared to go back and get all our belongings, but I guess we could be persuaded if we got a phone call or something. So anyway, they come back and find it all trashed and dumped in the empty swimming pool. And just what? Left? Left it as if to say, okay, whatever. Like, no, hold on a second, would you not want to confront the person that did this? Would you not want to have words or something? Or were they simply just not bothered by all their belongings being trashed? As far as we know, they didn't try to take John to court and try and sue him, which, seems likely as it was all of their belongings. But hold on a second, because we're led to believe the owners experience weird stuff at the ranch too, right? Hence why they left their stuff. But if that's the case, why did they assume it was John who dumped it all in there, and not whatever evil presence resides at the ranch? Or maybe they did, which is why they didn't end up suing John. But no, that can't be right either, because from John's own testimony, they told the estate agent that they thought he did it. I don't know. Either way, it's confusing and something doesn't quite add up. The Webcam Voyage. When I first saw the webcam footage, I instantly thought CGI. The textures of the alien just don't quite match up with everything else in the video. Now, just to give you some perspective, I've got a degree in film and have experience with video editing and special effects, so I like to think I know what I'm talking about, and to me, it just seems a little too smooth in contrast with the pixelated webcam footage. In other words, a high definition image was composited into a low resolution video, which is very common with UFO fakery. That being said, I believe this occurred during a live Skype interview, which would suggest it couldn't possibly be something edited in if it was filmed live, unless it was done in post-interview, which would make sense if nobody noticed it during the actual interview. Another inconsistency here is that John has often been told to set up cameras in order to capture the abundant UFO and alien activity by his critics. The response to this has always been that the aliens are just too smart and know how to avoid detection by cameras. So how is it that it took only one webcam to capture one of them? Again, something just doesn't add up. And I'm not saying John is responsible here, by the way. It's quite possible that if this particular occurrence was a hoax, it might have been done by someone else. Notice how the alien conveniently appears and reappears as John looks down away from the screen? Plausible deniability? Maybe. Either way, a clever edit in my opinion. Also, I just want to say, at the time this happened years ago, there were videos of it everywhere. Now it's a little tricky to find. Interesting. Now let's address the whole alien flesh thing. According to John, he sent a sample of dead alien flesh off to a renowned biophysicist by the name of W.C. Levengood. Now let's get one thing clear. Levengood was a real biophysicist, and he did have an interest in applying scientific methods to extraterrestrial phenomenon, such as cow mutilations and crop circles, and he even appeared in a few TV shows or documentaries. The full listings can be found on IMDb. So given that Levengood was a relatively well-known scientist, I assumed it would be somewhat easy to find his work on alien flesh. I found plenty of his papers relating to crop circle research, where he actually discovered anatomical anomalies among plant life around crop circles. He discovered that plants taken from crop circles were able to survive and continue to grow without sunlight, as if they'd been affected by some kind of energy boost or something. When he tried to recreate the effects with manually flattened crops the way hoaxers claim they're done, they were unsuccessful. In fact, they were unsuccessful in recreating this in any way, suggesting there was another element, possibly alien, involved in making crop circles. His research helped prove that some crop circles are created via an energy source unknown to science. Now, I was unable to find anything about his flesh research as claimed by John Edmonds. The only time I found info on it was through John himself or other people echoing his story. John is the only source to this. I couldn't find any independent story on his research, no link to an article or scientific paper, despite there being plenty on his crop circle research. This is not to say it didn't happen, however, as I found with my own research, it seemed unusually difficult to find much info on this whole case. It could be just as likely someone is deliberately trying to hide evidence. But if that's the case, why was it so easy to find his crop circle research? It's potentially just as groundbreaking, right? Also, whenever I've heard the story, I was always led to believe Levengood was found dead in his lab by tripping over and breaking his neck right before he could announce his results to the national news. But I'm not really inclined to believe this either, as I found no articles online relating to his death. According to John, he simply went quiet and passed away in 2013. Much more recent than I was led to believe, by the way. Now, Levengood is indeed dead, there's no doubt about that. But given that he was born in 1925 and died in 2013, that puts him around the age of 88, and I highly doubt he was running tests in his lab at that point. So, if you want to believe he was killed by the government, fine, but I highly doubt it was in his lab at the age of 88, as some stories will have you believe. Before today, I was fairly certain that whilst the story was hard to believe, there was at least some evidence to back up the claims. But upon conducting my own research, it's in my opinion that John was being dishonest, at least for a time. I wondered if maybe there was some truth to it, and he was just embellishing parts of the story, but I'm convinced the whole thing is made up. This is only my opinion and how I've interpreted the facts. I welcome different opinions and anyone who may have some information that I don't. I could be wrong. There is one question though, why make it up? Well, there are a number of leading theories, and the most likely is that the ranch just didn't turn out to be quite as great as John and his wife had planned, so they decided to sell. However, it wouldn't be that simple, and selling the ranch would not only be difficult, but it was almost likely going to incur a loss, and John had been saving up for his whole life for this ranch. Now, with him being a smart man, a psychiatrist, and his wife a former agent of the FBI, it's not too wild to consider that this partnership could have combined their skills and expertise to develop a wild story about aliens and UFOs, which would draw attention to the property, potentially increasing its value. After all, this all happened not long after the Skinwalker Ranch, and that was purchased by Robert Bigelow in an attempt to investigate the strange activity there. It should also be noted that there was talk of turning the Skinwalker Ranch into a Disney World of paranormal goings-on. Is it possible that the Edmonds got wind of this and thought they could get a similar deal for their ranch? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my analysis. I don't want to try and convert anyone to my way of thinking. Like I said, I could very well be wrong. I just want to share my opinion and present different ideas. Thank you all for watching, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you all soon.